The USS Harrison drifted through space like a tiny metal dot against the endless black void. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the main viewing window. His hands were sweaty inside his uniform gloves. In 30 years of military service, he had never felt this nervous. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Command," said Communications Officer Beth Miller. She was young, maybe 25, with short blonde hair and bright green eyes that showed her excitement about this historic mission. "Put it through," Jake replied. His voice was steady, but inside he felt like his stomach was doing backflips. "Admiral." Richardson's face appeared on the main screen. The old man looked serious as always, but there was something else in his expression today. Pride maybe, or worry. "Captain Morrison, you are about to make history," the Admiral said. "This is humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization. Everything you do in the next few hours will be remembered forever. Make us proud." "Understood, sir," Jake said, straightening his shoulders. "We won't let Earth down." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Jake looked around at his crew. There was Beth at Communications, Danny Clark at the science station with his messy brown hair falling into his eyes as he studied his instruments, Amy Torres at security with her arms crossed and a serious look on her face, and Chief Diplomat Lisa Park standing near the captain's chair in her formal blue dress uniform. "How much longer until they arrive?" Jake asked Danny. Danny pushed his hair back and checked his readings again. "The Zephyrian ship should be here in about 10 minutes, Captain. And sir, it's big, really big. My sensors are having trouble getting an accurate size reading, but I think it's at least 5 miles long," Amy whistled low. 5 miles? Our ship is only 300 feet long. They could probably fit 1,000 ships like ours inside theirs. "That's the point," Lisa said, adjusting her uniform jacket. "They want to impress us. Show us how powerful they are. It's a standard diplomatic move." Jake nodded, but he couldn't help feeling worried. The Zephyrians had contacted Earth 6 months ago with a simple message: "We wish to meet the humans and discuss peace between our peoples." Since then, Earth's best diplomats and scientists had been preparing for this moment, down in the ship's maintenance bay. Kevin Walsh was lying on his back under a broken water recycling unit, trying to fix a leak. He was 19 years old, with messy red hair and grease stains on his blue jumpsuit. He had only been in space for 3 months, and he still couldn't believe he was actually out here among the stars. Kevin wasn't supposed to be on this mission. He was supposed to be back on Earth, learning his job at the training facility. But 2 days before the Harrison was supposed to leave, their regular maintenance guy got sick with space flu. Kevin was the only replacement they could find on short notice. "Come on, you stupid piece of junk," Kevin muttered, wrestling with a stubborn bolt. "Just work for once." He had no idea that history was about to be made just a few decks above him. All he cared about was fixing this recycling unit before Captain Morrison found out it was broken. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Danny suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. It's massive." Everyone turned to look at the main screen. At first, there was nothing but stars. Then, slowly, something began to take shape in the distance. It started as just a glimmer like light reflecting off water. But as it got closer, they could see it was actually a ship. "Oh my God," Beth whispered. The Zephyrian mothership was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It looked like a giant crystal with smooth curved sides that reflected the light of nearby stars. Strange patterns of blue and gold light moved across its surface like living things. And it was huge, so huge that it seemed to fill half the sky. "How big is that thing?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "My instruments say it's 8 miles long and 3 miles wide," Danny replied, his hands shaking as he worked his controls. "Captain, there are thousands of life signs aboard that ship. Maybe tens of thousands." The alien ship came to a stop about a mile away from the Harrison. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Beth's communications board started beeping. "They're hailing us, Captain," she said. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. The main screen changed, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. Princess Zareth was beautiful in a strange, otherworldly way. She was tall, much taller than any human, with smooth blue skin that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Her eyes were large and golden, with pupils that looked like stars. She had 6 arms, each ending in graceful hands with long, delicate fingers. "Greetings, humans," she said. Her voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Princess Zareth of the Zephyrian royal house. We come in peace, seeking friendship and understanding between our peoples." Jake stepped forward. "Welcome, Your Highness. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Harrison. We are honored to meet you." Princess Zareth smiled, showing teeth that sparkled like diamonds. "The honor is ours, Captain Morrison. May we come aboard your ship? Our customs require that first meetings take place in neutral territory, and your vessel seems perfect for this purpose." "Of course, Your Highness. Our shuttle bay is prepared to receive you." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the Harrison's main conference room, watching as the shuttle bay doors opened to reveal Princess Zareth and her escort. There were 6 of them in total, the princess and 5 royal guards who were even taller than she was, wearing armor that looked like it. Was made from the same crystal material as their ship. The conference room had been decorated with Earth's finest art and music. Flags from every nation on Earth hung on the walls, and a table in the center was covered with gifts books, music recordings, pictures of Earth cities and natural wonders, and examples of human technology. Princess Zareth entered the room, gracefully, her 6 arms moving in perfect coordination. Her guards followed behind her, their eyes constantly scanning for threats. "Your ship is charming," the princess said, looking around the room. "So compact and efficient. Very much like what we expected from humans." "Thank you, Your Highness," Lisa said, stepping forward. "Please have a seat. We've prepared a small ceremony to welcome you to our vessel." Jake began the formal presentations, showing the princess examples of human culture and technology. Lisa gave carefully prepared speeches about Earth's history, values, and hopes for the future. The princess listened politely, asking thoughtful questions and making appropriate comments, but something seemed to be distracting her. Her golden eyes kept moving around the room, as if she was looking for something or someone. The patterns of light on her blue skin shifted and changed, which Danny had told them meant she was using her psychic abilities. Then the conference room door opened, and Kevin Walsh walked in. Kevin Walsh walked into the conference room, carrying his toolkit in one hand and a wrench in the other. His red hair was messy, and there were grease stains on his blue jumpsuit. He had no idea that he was interrupting the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. "Sorry, Captain," Kevin said, not looking up from his work order tablet. "The air recycling unit in here has been making that weird humming sound again. I need to check the filters before it gets worse." The room went completely silent. "Captain." Morrison's face turned pale. Lisa Park looked like she might faint. Even the Zephyrian guards seemed surprised by the sudden interruption, but Princess Zareth had a very different reaction. The moment Kevin entered the room, she froze. The patterns of light on her blue skin began to glow brighter, shifting from blue and gold to pure white. Her 6 arms trembled slightly, and her golden eyes grew wide with what looked like shock. "Your Highness, please forgive the interruption," Jake said quickly, stepping toward Kevin. "Kevin, you need to leave right now. We're in the middle of something very important." Kevin finally looked up from his tablet and saw the aliens for the first time. His mouth fell open and he dropped his wrench. It hit the floor with a loud clang that echoed through the silent room. "Oh, wow," Kevin said, staring at Princess Zareth. "You're really blue. And tall, and you have 6 arms. That's actually pretty cool." Amy Torres moved toward Kevin, planning to escort him out of the room, but Princess Zareth raised one of her hands to stop her. The princess was staring at Kevin like she had seen a ghost. Then something happened that no one expected. Princess Zareth, heir to the throne of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, slowly sank to her knees. The Zephyrian guards gasped. One of them, a tall warrior with silver markings on his armor, stepped forward in alarm. "Princess, what are you doing?" In Zephyrian culture, royalty never knelt before anyone except the Supreme Emperor. It was unthinkable. It was against everything their society believed in. The youngest human, Princess Zareth whispered, her musical voice filled with awe. He is the one. Everyone in the room stared at her in confusion. Kevin looked around, nervously, still holding his toolkit. The one what? Kevin asked. Did I break something? Because if I did, I can fix it. That's kind of my job. Princess Zareth rose to her feet gracefully, never taking her eyes off Kevin. The white light on her skin was now pulsing in steady rhythms, like a heartbeat made of starlight. There has been no mistake, she said, her voice growing stronger. Among my people we have what you would call psychic abilities. We can sense the inner nature of all living beings, what we call the soul resonance. Lisa Park stepped forward, trying to regain control of the diplomatic situation. Your Highness, this is Kevin Walsh. He's part of our maintenance crew. Perhaps we should return to our formal discussions and— No. Princess Zareth interrupted, which was very unusual for someone of her royal training. This cannot wait. Captain Morrison, do you know anything about the Kethmara prophecy? Jake shook his head. I'm afraid not, Your Highness. Princess Zareth began to pace the room, her 6 arms moving in graceful gestures as she spoke. 3,000 years ago, our greatest prophet, Seer Kethmara, made a prediction about the future of our galaxy. She said that one day, when the stars aligned in a certain pattern and the galaxy was torn by conflict, a being would come from a distant world to unite all the scattered peoples and bring lasting peace. Danny Clark was taking notes on his tablet, his scientific mind fascinated by this revelation. What did this prophecy say exactly? It said that this chosen one would be recognized not by great power or wisdom, but by 3 signs, the princess continued. First, they would be the youngest of the star children, with an innocent heart that had not been corrupted by ambition. Second, they would possess the innocent light that cuts through all deception and pretense. Third, they would seek not glory or recognition, but only to fulfill their simple duty. Kevin was looking more and more uncomfortable. Look, I think. You've got the wrong guy. I'm not special. I just fix things. I'm not even supposed to be on this mission. I was supposed to stay on Earth and finish my training. Princess Zareth smiled, and for the first time since she had entered the room, she looked truly happy. That is exactly why you are the one the prophecy speaks of. The silver-armored guard who had spoken earlier stepped forward. His name was Commander Veltar, and he had served the royal family for 50 years. Princess, with respect, this is impossible. The Kethmara prophecy speaks of a being of great power and wisdom. This human is barely more than a child. Veltar, Princess Zareth said gently, you have known me since I was small. Have you ever known my psychic readings to be wrong? The old commander lowered his head. No, Princess, never. Then trust me now. This young human soul resonance matches the prophecy perfectly. His spirit shines with the innocent light Kethmara described. He seeks no power, no glory, only to do his simple work well. Kevin raised his hand like he was in school. Can I say something? Because this is getting really weird, and I'd like to go back to fixing the air recycler now. Of course, Princess Zareth said. What do you wish to say? Well, first of all, I don't know anything about prophecies or chosen ones or whatever. Second, I'm really not special. I'd barely graduated from high school. I can't even remember to do my laundry half the time, and yesterday I got lost trying to find the cafeteria on my own ship. Third, I have a girlfriend back on Earth named Jenny, and she's going to be really mad if I don't call her tonight because I'm busy being some kind of space prophet. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Princess Zareth began to laugh. It was a beautiful sound, like silver bells ringing in the wind. Perfect, she said. Absolutely perfect. Veltar, do you see? He refuses the role even when it is offered to him. He thinks only of his simple duties and the people he cares about. The prophecy said the chosen one would be humble above all else. Captain Morrison was trying hard to understand what was happening. Your Highness, assuming for a moment that Kevin is this prophesied figure, what exactly does that mean? What is he supposed to do? Princess Zareth's expression grew more serious. The prophecy says that when the chosen one appears, Representatives from all the great powers of the galaxy will gather to witness his recognition. Some will accept him, others will challenge him. But in the end, he will show us a path to peace that none of us could see before. Amy Torres, who had been silent until now, spoke up. And what if Kevin doesn't want to be your chosen one? What if he just wants to go home? Then that choice would prove his worthiness even more, Princess Zareth replied. The prophecy is not about forcing someone to lead. It is about recognizing the kind of person who could lead if they chose to. Kevin sat down heavily in one of the conference room chairs. This is crazy. A week ago, my biggest worry was whether I could afford pizza on Friday night. Now you're telling me I'm supposed to unite the galaxy? Not unite, Princess Zareth corrected gently. Show the way to unity. There is a difference. Jake looked at his crew, then back at the princess. Your Highness, what happens next? If you truly believe Kevin is this prophesied figure, what are we supposed to do about it? Princess Zareth's expression grew troubled. We must return to my ship and send word throughout the galaxy. The prophecy states that all the major powers must be given the chance to accept or reject the chosen one. This will not be easy. Many species will be skeptical. Others will be openly hostile to the idea. Hostile how? Lisa asked nervously. Some believe that strength alone should rule the galaxy. They will see a young human maintenance worker as an insult to everything they value. They may try to stop the prophecy from being fulfilled. Kevin stood up and picked up his dropped wrench. Great. So not only am I supposedly some kind of space messiah, but now people are going to try to kill me for it. This day just keeps getting better. Princess Zareth moved closer to Kevin, her golden eyes full of compassion. I know this is frightening and confusing, but I believe the prophecy brought us together for a reason. You do not have to accept this role, but would you at least come with us to meet with the other galactic powers? Let them see you for themselves and make their own judgments? Kevin looked around the room at Captain Morrison, Lisa, Danny, Amy, and Beth. These people had become like family to him during their journey. Then he looked at Princess Zareth with her glowing blue skin and 6 graceful arms, asking him to help bring peace to the entire galaxy. If I say yes, Kevin asked slowly, do I still get to fix things? Because honestly, that's the only thing I'm actually good at. 3 days later, Kevin Walsh found himself sitting in the most expensive chair he had ever seen, in the most important room in the galaxy, wearing the cleanest jumpsuit he owned. The Galactic Council chamber on Haven Prime Station was huge, with curved walls that reached up so high he couldn't see the ceiling. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in sections, designed for their different body types and environmental needs. Kevin had never felt so out of place in his life. I still think this is a mistake, he whispered to Captain Morrison, who was sitting next to him in the human delegation section. Look at these people. They're all presidents and kings and generals. I fix toilets. You fix more than toilets, Jake whispered back. And besides, Princess Zareth seems pretty sure about this prophecy thing. Across the chamber, Princess Zareth sat with the Zephyrian delegation. She caught Kevin's eye and gave him an encouraging smile. Her blue skin was glowing with soft golden patterns, which Danny had explained meant she was using her psychic abilities to stay calm. At the center of the chamber, High Chancellor Quix of the Andromedan Federation called the emergency session. To order, she was a tall, elegant alien with silver skin and no hair, wearing flowing purple robes. Her voice echoed through the chamber when she spoke. We have gathered here today to address an unprecedented claim, Chancellor Quix announced. Princess Zareth of the Zephyrian Empire believes she has identified the subject of the ancient Kethmara prophecy. Before we proceed, I must note that this council has always operated on the basis of science and reason, not ancient superstitions. A rumble of agreement came from several sections of the chamber. Kevin sank lower in his chair. Princess Zareth stood gracefully, all 6 of her arms moving in formal gestures. Honorable Chancellor, with respect, the Kethmara prophecy has guided Zephyrian policy for 3,000 years. It is not superstition, but a cornerstone of our civilization. From the Corvan Empire section, a massive figure stood up. General Corax was 8 feet tall and covered in dark gray armor that looked like it could stop a missile. His species believed that only the strongest should rule, and his voice was like thunder when he spoke. "This is nonsense," General Corax growled. "You expect us to believe that this small human child is destined to lead the galaxy? My people have conquered 17 star systems through strength and courage. We do not bow to prophecies or soft-skinned weaklings." Kevin felt his face turn red. He had been called a lot of things in his life, but never a soft-skinned weakling by an 8-foot-tall alien general. "General Corax," Princess Zareth replied calmly, "the prophecy does not speak of conquest or physical strength. It speaks of wisdom, compassion, and the ability to see solutions where others see only problems." "Bah," General Corax spat. "Pretty words. But when the real fighting starts, pretty words do not win battles." Another delegate stood up. This one looked completely different from the others. Node Prime 417 was part of the Silicon Mines Collective, a species of artificial intelligences housed in crystal bodies. Its voice sounded like a computer, cold and precise. "This unit has calculated the probability of the events Princess Zareth describes," Node Prime 417 announced. "A human maintenance worker of the specified age, assigned to humanity's first diplomatic mission through personnel shortage, arriving at the exact moment when Zephyrian psychic readings confirm prophetic indicators. The odds are approximately 847 billion to 1 against this occurring naturally." Kevin blinked. "Is that good or bad?" Danny leaned over and whispered, "It means either this really is destiny or something very strange is happening." Chancellor Quix raised her hand for silence. "These are all fascinating points, but we must deal with practical concerns. Even if we accept that young Kevin Walsh matches some ancient prophecy, what exactly are we supposed to do about it? The Galactic Council cannot base policy decisions on mystical predictions." "With respect, Chancellor," came a new voice from the back of the chamber. Ambassador Thera of the Peaceful Worlds Alliance stepped forward. Her species looked almost like humans, except for their bright green skin and large, kind eyes. "Many of our worlds have suffered under Corvin expansion for decades. If there is even a small chance that this prophecy could lead to peace, should we not at least consider it?" General Corax slammed his armored fist on his chair. "The Corvin Empire brings order to chaos. We rule because we are strong. That is the natural way." "The natural way," Princess Zareth said softly, "is not always the right way." Kevin had been listening to all this arguing for over an hour, and he was getting frustrated. These people were talking about him like he wasn't even there, debating his life like it was some kind of political game. Finally, he stood up. "Can I say something?" Kevin asked, his voice echoing in the huge chamber. The room fell silent. Dozens of alien faces turned to look at him. Kevin's hands were shaking, but he took a deep breath and kept talking. "I don't know anything about prophecies, or destiny, or any of that stuff," he said. "But I do know that you're all sitting here arguing about whether I'm some kind of chosen one, and nobody has bothered to ask me what I think about it." Chancellor Quix looked surprised. "Very well, young human. What do you think?" Kevin looked around the chamber at all the different species represented there. Some looked friendly, others looked suspicious, and a few looked downright hostile. "I think you're all scared," Kevin said simply. General Corax roared in anger. "The Corvin Empire fears nothing." "I didn't say you were cowards," Kevin replied. "Surprising everyone by not backing down?" "I said you were scared, and you know what? That's okay. I'm scared too. I'm terrified. But being scared doesn't mean we can't try to do the right thing," he pointed to General Corax. "You're scared that if people stop fighting, your empire won't matter anymore. You're scared that strength isn't the only thing that counts." Then he pointed to Chancellor Quix. "You're scared of making decisions based on faith instead of facts. You're scared that maybe there are some things science can't explain." He looked at Princess Zareth. "And you're scared that maybe your prophecy is wrong, and you've made a huge mistake that could embarrass your entire civilization." The chamber was completely quiet. Kevin could hear his own heartbeat. "The thing is, Kevin continued. I don't think any of that matters. Whether I'm some prophesied chosen one or just a regular guy who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, we're all here now. We're all talking to each other instead of shooting at each other. That's got to count for something, right? Ambassador Thyra smiled. The human speaks wisdom. The human speaks foolishness, General Corax countered. Words are wind. Only action matters. Then let's take action, Princess Zareth said suddenly. The ancient texts speak of trials that the chosen one must face. 3 tests that will prove whether the prophecy is true or false. Node Prime 417's crystal body lit up with calculation patterns. What is the nature of these trials? The test of vision, the test of strength, and the test of heart, Princess Zareth replied. They have not been attempted in over 1,000 years. The exact details are known only to the oldest Zephyrian archives. Chancellor Quix considered this. And if Kevin Walsh passes these trials, then the prophecy is fulfilled and we must accept what it means for our galaxy's future. And if he fails? General Corax asked with a cruel smile. Then we return to our old ways and nothing changes. Kevin raised his hand again. What exactly do these trials involve? Because if they're anything like gym class, I'm probably going to fail. Princess Zareth's expression grew serious. The trials are designed to test the 3 qualities the prophecy says the chosen one must possess. Vision to see beyond the surface of things. Strength to endure what others cannot. And heart to choose compassion over personal gain. That doesn't sound too bad, Kevin said, though his voice wasn't very confident. Each trial has killed previous candidates, Princess Zareth added quietly. Kevin's face went pale. Oh, that's not good. Captain Morrison stood up. Your Highness, with respect, Kevin is under my protection. I can't allow him to participate in potentially lethal trials. The choice must be his, Princess Zareth replied. The prophecy is clear about that. The chosen one must volunteer freely or the trials are meaningless. All eyes turned to Kevin. The weight of the entire galaxy's future seemed to rest on his young shoulders. He thought about his girlfriend Jenny back on Earth, about his parents, who didn't even know where he was, about the simple life he had planned for himself. Then he thought about Ambassador Thayra's about worlds suffering under Corvin rule. He thought about the hope in Princess Zareth's golden eyes. He thought about all the different species in this chamber, some of whom might find peace if he was brave enough to try. If I do this, Kevin said slowly, and I somehow pass these trials, what happens then? Do I have to become some kind of galactic emperor or something? The prophecy speaks only of showing the way, Princess Zareth replied. How that way is followed would be up to everyone else. Kevin was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, and looked up at the ceiling he still couldn't see. Okay, he said, I'll do it. But I want to go on record as saying this is probably the stupidest decision I've ever made. The crystal caves of Zephyria Prime were the most beautiful and terrifying place Kevin had ever seen. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light, and strange formations hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. The air hummed with psychic energy that made his skin tingle. I still think this is a really bad idea, Kevin said, adjusting the breathing mask they had given him. The atmosphere on Zephyria Prime was safe for humans, but the psychic energy in the caves could make it hard to breathe. Princess Zareth walked beside him, her 6 arms moving gracefully as she navigated the uneven crystal floor. The test of vision has been used for 3,000 years to identify those who can see beyond the surface of reality. Many have attempted it, few have succeeded. Behind them, representatives from dozens of species followed at a safe distance. The trials were being broadcast throughout the galaxy, and billions of beings were watching to see if a human maintenance worker could really fulfill an ancient prophecy. Captain Morrison walked close to Kevin, worry written all over his face. Son, you don't have to do this. We can call this whole thing off and go home right now. No, we can't, Captain, Kevin replied, though his voice was shaky. Too many people are watching now. If I back out, it'll make humans look like cowards. Besides, Princess Zareth says the trials adapt to the person taking them. Maybe they won't be as dangerous for me as they were for other people. Or maybe they'll be worse. Amy Torres muttered from behind them. They reached a circular chamber deep in the heart of the crystal caves. The walls here were darker, almost black, and covered with strange symbols that seemed to move when Kevin wasn't looking directly at them. In the center of the chamber was a simple archway made of the same living crystal as the walls. "This is the entrance to the Maze of Visions," Princess Zareth explained. "Once you step through that archway, you will be alone. The maze will show you things that are not real, but will feel completely real to you. Your task is to reach the center of the maze without losing your mind." Kevin swallowed hard. "What kind of things will I see?" "The maze is different for everyone. It shows you your deepest fears, your greatest desires, your hidden shamas, and your secret hopes. Most people become lost in the visions and never find their way out." General Korax, who had insisted on attending the trials personally, laughed harshly. "The boy will be dead or insane within an hour. This is what happens when weak species believe in fairy tales." Kevin looked back at the Corvan general, then at all the other aliens watching him. Some looked worried, others looked skeptical, and a few looked like they were hoping he would fail. "How will you know if I succeed?" Kevin asked Princess Zareth. "If you reach the center of the maze, you will find the crystal of truth. Touch it, and you will be transported back here. If you do not return within 6 hours, we will assume you have failed." Kevin nodded and walked toward the archway. As he got closer, the crystal symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, and he could hear something like whispered voices speaking in languages he didn't recognize. "Kevin," Captain Morrison called out, "remember who you are. Don't let whatever you see in there change that." Kevin gave him a thumbs up, took a deep breath, and stepped through the archway. The world changed instantly. Instead of crystal caves, Kevin found himself in a maze made of metal corridors that looked exactly like the inside of a spaceship. But something was wrong. The walls were covered with rust and dents, sparks flew from broken electrical panels, and he could hear the sound of people screaming in the distance. Kevin started walking down the corridor, his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. As he walked, he began to see things that made his heart race. Through open doorways, he could see scenes of terrible disasters. Spaceships exploding, planets being destroyed, cities burning, while people ran in terror. In one room, he saw Captain Morrison lying on the floor, bleeding from a head wound. In another, he saw Princess Zareth being arrested by her own guards. In a third, he saw his girlfriend Jenny crying as she read a letter telling her that Kevin was never coming home. "None of this is real," Kevin said out loud, trying to keep himself calm. "It's just the maze trying to scare me." But as he continued walking, the visions got worse. He saw himself as an old man, alone and forgotten, having wasted his life on impossible dreams. He saw the galaxy torn apart by war because he had failed to bring peace. He saw every mistake he had ever made played out in horrible detail. The maze seemed to sense his fear and began showing him his deepest desires instead. Suddenly he was the greatest hero in human history, admired by billions. He had wealth beyond imagination, power over entire star systems, and fame that would last forever. All he had to do was give up his simple life and embrace his destiny. As the prophesied chosen one, Kevin stopped walking. The visions were so real he could smell the flowers in the garden of his imaginary palace, could feel the weight of the golden crown on his head, could hear the cheers of the crowds worshiping him. For a moment, he was tempted. It would be so easy to lose himself in these dreams of glory and power. But then he remembered something his father had told him when he was a little boy. The best way to fix something is to understand what it's really supposed to do. Kevin looked around at the visions of power and glory surrounding him and realized what they really were. They weren't showing him his future. They were showing him his ego. And his ego was broken, just like any other machine that wasn't working properly. "I don't want any of this," Kevin said firmly. "I just want to fix things and help people. That's who I am." The visions of power faded away, but the maze wasn't finished with him yet. Now it began showing him scenes of pain and suffering throughout the galaxy. Wars that had lasted for centuries, planets where children starved while their rulers lived in luxury, species that had been enslaved or wiped out by stronger neighbors. You could fix all of this, a voice whispered in his mind. Accept your destiny, become the leader the galaxy needs. But Kevin shook his head. I can't fix everything, nobody can. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't try to fix what I can. He kept walking through the maze, ignoring the increasingly desperate visions it showed him. Instead of getting lost in what he saw, he started treating it like any other repair job. When he saw a broken spaceship in one vision, he mentally diagnosed what was wrong with its engines. When he saw people arguing in another, he thought about what they really needed instead of what they were fighting about. Gradually, the maze began to change. The metal corridors became cleaner and brighter. The sounds of screaming were replaced by the gentle hum of properly functioning machinery. The visions became less frightening and more like puzzles to be solved. Kevin found himself in a room where a small alien child was crying over a broken toy. The child looked up at him with huge, sad eyes. Even though Kevin knew it was just a vision, he sat down next to the child and gently took the toy dot. It was a simple mechanical bird with brightly colored feathers. One of its wings was bent and wouldn't move properly. Kevin carefully straightened. The wing adjusted a small spring inside and wound up the mechanism. The toy bird began to flutter its wings and chirp a happy little song. The alien child smiled and hugged the toy, then looked up at Kevin with gratitude shining in its eyes. "Thank you," the child said in perfect English. "You're welcome," Kevin replied. "That's what I do. I fix things." The child and the room faded away, and Kevin found himself standing in front of a beautiful crystal formation that pulsed with warm, golden light. This had to be the crystal of truth that Princess Zareth had told him about. As Kevin reached out to touch it, he realized something important. The maze hadn't been testing whether he could resist temptation or overcome fear. It had been testing whether he could stay true to himself no matter what he saw, whether he could see past the surface of things to understand what was really important. Kevin touched the crystal, and the world dissolved around him. He found himself back in the crystal chamber, surrounded by dozens of alien faces staring at him in amazement. Princess Zareth was glowing so brightly that she looked like a blue star. "How long was I gone?" Kevin asked, feeling dizzy. Danny Clark checked his chronometer. 47 minutes. "You set a new record. The previous fastest time was 8 hours. General Corax was staring at Kevin with something that might have been respect. Impossible. The maze should have kept him trapped for days. Princess Zareth smiled and bowed deeply to Kevin. "The first trial is complete. You have proven that you possess the vision to see beyond illusion to truth. But 2 trials remain, and they will be far more difficult." Kevin sat down heavily on a crystal formation, suddenly exhausted. "Great, I can hardly wait." But despite his tiredness, he felt something he hadn't expected. He felt proud of himself. For the first time in his life, he had done something that really mattered. And somehow, deep in his heart, he knew he could face whatever came next. The second trial took place in the cold emptiness of space itself. Kevin floated alone in a protective suit, looking out at the infinite darkness filled with distant stars. He had passed the test of vision, and now he faced the test of strength. But this wasn't about lifting heavy things or fighting monsters. According to Princess Zareth, it was about mental strength, the ability to face the overwhelming vastness of the universe without going insane. 1 hour, Kevin said to himself, checking the timer on his suit display. "I just have to stay out here for 1 hour without losing my mind. How hard can that be?" The answer, he quickly discovered, was very hard. Space was bigger than anything Kevin had ever imagined. In every direction, there was nothing but emptiness stretching on forever. No up or down, no beginning or end, just endless darkness dotted with tiny points of light that were actually giant suns billions of miles away. It made him feel smaller than an ant, smaller than a grain of sand, smaller than nothing at all. Kevin tried to stay calm by thinking about normal things. He recited the maintenance procedures for water recyclers, ran through his checklist for fixing broken air filters, and even tried to remember the lyrics to his favorite songs. But gradually, the emptiness began to get to him. What was the point of fixing anything when the universe was so huge that nothing humans did would ever matter? Earth was just one tiny planet around one ordinary star in a galaxy that contained billions of stars. And there were billions of galaxies, all slowly moving apart from each other as the universe expanded into even greater emptiness. "Stop it," Kevin said out loud, his voice echoing inside his helmet. "Don't think about that stuff. Think about something else." But it was too late. The cosmic perspective was overwhelming him, making him feel dizzy and sick. This was why most species couldn't handle the test of strength. The sheer scale of existence was enough to drive anyone crazy if they thought about it too much. Kevin closed his eyes, but that only made it worse. Now he couldn't see anything at all, and his imagination filled the darkness with even more terrible thoughts about infinity and meaninglessness and the heat. Death of the universe. Then he remembered something his grandfather had told him when he was 8 years old. Kevin had been crying because his pet hamster had died, and he couldn't understand why anything existed if everything was just going to die anyway. "Son," his grandfather had said, "the universe is big and scary and we don't understand most of it, but you know what? That hamster of yours lived a good life because you took care of him. You gave him food and water and a clean cage and love. That mattered to him, even if it doesn't matter to the universe." Kevin opened his eyes and looked out at the stars again. They were still overwhelmingly huge and distant, but now he thought about them differently. Each one of those tiny points of light might have planets around it. And some of those planets might have people living on them, people who needed things fixed, people who were scared or lonely or just trying to get through another day. "I can't save the universe," Kevin said, feeling calmer now. "But I can fix a broken recycling unit. I can help one person at a time. And if enough people do that, maybe it adds up to something important." He started doing math problems in his head, calculating how much water the Harrison's recycling system processed in a day. How many people that kept alive, how many days they could survive if the system broke down. Then he thought about all the other ships in space, all the space stations, all the colonies on distant planets where people depended on machines working properly to stay alive. Suddenly the vastness of space didn't seem so scary anymore. It seemed full of possibilities. All those stars represented places where Kevin's skills might be useful, where broken things waited to be fixed, where people needed help. By the time his hour was up, Kevin was actually enjoying himself. He was floating in space, looking at the galaxy spread out before him like a giant workshop full of projects waiting for the right person to come along and fix them. The rescue ship picked him up exactly on schedule. When Kevin was brought back to Haven Prime Station, Princess Zareth was waiting for him with tears of joy streaming down her blue cheeks. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Pretty good, actually," Kevin replied, taking off his helmet. "Space is really big, but it's also really full of stuff that probably needs fixing." General Korak stepped forward, his armor clanking with each step. 2 trials down. But the 3rd trial is the most important and the most dangerous. Many who passed the first 2 have died in the test of heart. Kevin sighed. "What does this one involve?" Princess Zareth looked sad. "The test of heart presents you with an impossible choice. You must choose between saving the people you care about most and saving strangers who need your help. Most candidates choose to save their loved ones, which proves they are not worthy to unite the galaxy. And the ones who choose to save the strangers? They usually go insane from guilt and grief." Kevin thought about this for a moment. What if I refuse to choose? What if I try to save everyone? Then you will probably fail to save anyone, and the trial will end in disaster. 3 hours later, Kevin found himself in a simulation chamber that looked exactly like the Harrison's bridge. Captain Morrison, Lisa Park, Danny Clares, and Beth Miller were all there, looking exactly like the real people. The simulation was so perfect that Kevin could even smell Amy's coffee and hear the subtle hum of the ship's engines. "Kevin, thank God you're here," the simulated Captain Morrison said. "We're in terrible trouble. Our engines are failing and we're caught in a gravity well. We're going to crash into that planet in 20 minutes unless you can fix the engines." Kevin started to move toward the engine room, but then another voice called out over the communication system. It was Princess Zarath, and she sounded desperate. "Kevin, please help us. Our ship is also failing. We have 3,000 people aboard, including 500 children. Our life support is failing, and we only have 15 minutes of air left. You're the only one who can fix it in time." Kevin stopped in the middle of the corridor, his heart racing. This was the impossible choice. Save his friends and crewmates on the Harrison, or save the 3,000 Zephyrians, including Princess Zarath. He could only choose one. "Can I split up and work on both problems?" Kevin asked. "No," came Princess Zarath's voice. "The distances are too great and the time too short. You must choose." Kevin stood there for a moment, thinking hard. Everyone was waiting for his decision. His friends on the Harrison were counting on him. Princess Zarath and 3,000 innocent people were counting on him. And everyone watching throughout the galaxy was waiting to see what he would do. Then Kevin smiled. "I choose option 3, he said firmly. "There's no option 3, the computer running the simulation announced. "Yes, there is," Kevin replied. "I reject the premise of the test. Nobody should have to choose who lives and who dies when there might be a way to save everyone." Kevin ran to the Harrison's communications station and began frantically working on the controls. "Computer, can you patch me into both ships' engineering systems simultaneously? That is not part of the test parameters." "I don't care about the test parameters. Can you do it or not?" There was a pause. "Yes, but what you're attempting is impossible." "Let me worry about that." Kevin's fingers flew over the controls as he accessed both ship systems at once. The Harrison's engine problem was caused by a feedback loop in the power distribution network. The Zephyrian ship's life support failure was caused by a cascade error in their atmospheric processing unit. Normally, these would require completely different solutions. But Kevin saw something that the test designers hadn't expected anyone to notice. Both problems were actually symptoms of the same type of systematic failure. And if he could create a temporary network link between the two ships, he could use the Harrison's backup systems to supplement the Zephyrian ship's life support, while simultaneously using the Zephyrian ship's secondary power grid to stabilize the Harrison's engines. "It's crazy, but it might work," Kevin muttered, his hands moving faster than they ever had before. "If I can just reroute the power flow through both ships at the same time. The timer showed 3 minutes left when Kevin finished his modifications. For a moment, nothing happened. Then both ship systems came back online simultaneously. The simulation ended, and Kevin found himself back in the real testing chamber. Surrounded by amazed alien faces, Princess Zarath was glowing so brightly she looked like a small sun. Impossible. No one has ever solved the test of heart that way before. The test was designed to have no solution, Node Prime 417 announced, yet the human found one. This unit's calculations indicate that his approach had only a 0.003% chance of success. General Corax was staring at Kevin with what might have been the first genuine respect the Corvan general had ever shown a non-Corvan. "You did not choose the strong over the weak or the weak over the strong. You chose to make everyone stronger." Chancellor Quick stepped forward. "Kevin Walsh of Earth, you have passed all 3 trials in ways that no one expected. The question now is, what do we do about it?" Kevin looked around at all the alien faces watching him expectantly. They wanted him to say something profound, something that would unite the galaxy and bring peace to the stars.